Coming up on Tech News Today, Netflix has their earnings. They look unstoppable. When you'll get Google Glass and why Siri isn't safe. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Interop. Interop Las Vegas is the largest independent technology conference and expo for IT professionals. If you're in IT, you cannot miss this year's event. Visit www.interop.com to register and use code WELV for $200 off a conference pass or a free expo pass. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Maya Zakhtar.
I'm Alex Semple.
And thanks again for the second day in a row to Zach Holder for making us that new intro. We love it. We're going to still keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech news today, starting with the top 10 of the day in the news feeds. Netflix thrilled Wall Street with its Q1 financial results of $1.02 billion U.S. and earnings per share of 31 cents, well ahead of the expected 19 cents per share that Wall Street expected. CEO Reed Hastings also announced fewer than 8,000 people gamed the 30-day free trial they offer in order to watch House of Cards and then duck out. More people watched Hemlock Grove this weekend than watched House of Cards in its first week, and a new family plan of $11.99 a month is coming that'll allow you to stream Netflix from 4 devices at once instead of the current 2.
Geeksphone, which is a smartphone OEM startup based in Madrid, put the first Firefox OS developer phones on sale early this morning, and they're already out of stock. Only took a few hours. 2 phones, the Keon for $119 and the Peak for $194, are the first hardware to be offered with Firefox OS on board. They're preview devices to give devs testing abilities before the OS hits the general public launch this June in 5 countries: Spain, Brazil, Portugal, and Venezuela.
We are truly living in the future. Computers in our pockets, wearable fitness gadgets, and soon you'll be able to order pizza from your Xbox. Yeah. Pizza Hut and Microsoft have joined forces to allow you to order anything from Pizza Hut's menu using your controller, voice commands, and or the Kinect if you want. You can even save your favorite combos so you can order easier in the future. But wait, there's more. The app goes live today, and you'll receive a discount if your order between now and May 6th goes through. And the fat, nerdy kid in me is saying, where was this when I was 12?
Reddit's Huey Priest posted on the site's blog reflections on the recent Boston crisis, stating, quote, "We all need to look at what happened and make sure that in the future we do everything we can to help and not hinder crisis situations." The post stated some activity on Reddit fueled witch hunts and dangerous speculation and apologized specifically to the family of Sunil Tripathi, who had been incorrectly identified at one point as being responsible for the bombings. The post concluded by saying, quote, "We hope that Boston will also be where Reddit learns to be sensitive of its own power."
Verizon's released its data breach investigations report, which looks at security breaches annually over a year period. And this year, it saw a large uptick in espionage attacks linked to China. The report looks at around 47,000 incidents. 621 are confirmed data breaches within the past year. Of those, 37% were focused on financial institutions. 92% of those were perpetrated by outsiders. 76% took advantage of exploited weak or broken credentials. But overall, 96% of the espionage cases were eventually linked to China.
Speaking of BBC Radio 4, Eric Schmidt said that Google Glass won't be available to the general public until sometime in the spring of 2014. Now, back in February, Google said it aimed to bring Glass to your face by the end of 2013. However, Schmidt said there will be thousands of Glass devices being used by developers over the coming months, and their feedback will influence the final product once it launches.
3D printing service Shapeways has received $30 million in funding from Silicon Valley investors. Rather than sell printers, Shapeways provides design software for people to create objects, and then Shapeways will print them itself. The service includes a marketplace where designers can sell the objects that Shapeway prints and ships. The company said it will use the money to hire more people and open more factories.
ARM's got some sunny news to report. The chip maker reported sales that beat analyst estimates as demand increased for its graphics and processing tech. Revenue rose 29% to $260 million in the first quarter, which ended in March. ARM chief executive Warren East said in March he would retire on the 1st of July after almost 12 years at the helm. His successor, Simon Segars, is tasked with growing the company's share of semiconductor designs and moving ARM's tech into connected devices, web-enabled smart televisions, tablets, and smartphones.
AMD has announced an updated G-series processor with 4 Jaguar cores, a Radeon 8000 GPU and I/O module on a single piece of silicon. But what got Engadget's Sharif Sark excited was an X at the bottom right of the logo on the chip. Now, the X stands for x86. Why point that out? Arun Iyanagar says AMD is paving the way for an ARM-designed CPU as part of this embedded series. Radeon graphics and parallel processing may be making their way to your Android tablet someday.
A couple of law stories to end the news views today. Nokia won an injunction that would stop HTC from using microphones from ST Microelectronics. Those microphones were made for Nokia exclusively, and Nokia said HTC had no license to use those microphones in the HTC One. The injunction lasts until March of next year. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, meanwhile, at the International Trade Commission, Apple won a patent dispute with Motorola. The ITC said that Apple didn't infringe on Motorola's sensor-related patent. Motorola was trying to ban importation of iPhones, but that's not going to happen.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Advertisers, we want to thank our sponsor for today's show, Interop. Interop is the largest independent conference and expo for IT professionals, and it's now in its 28th year. Father Robert Ballecer, the big fan, he and his co-hosts on Twyat met at Interop. We wouldn't have Twyat without Interop. This year, the agenda, the speakers, the size of the exposition, and the trending enterprise IT topics are pointing to one thing: you cannot miss this year's event. 6 reasons. Here we go. Vendor neutral. As big tent IT shows in the U.S. go, Interop stands alone as the only vendor-neutral event where you can easily compare solutions across a variety of approaches. Breadth of content, 125 conference sessions, things like bring your own device, cloud computing, big data management, enterprise mobility, all the stuff that you guys in enterprise are wanting to hear about. Hands-on access to 300-plus solution providers. You can actually see interoperability in action. One of the highlights is InteropNet, a real-life network of the newest gear and solutions at work. You can tour the InteropNet's Network Operations Center. They have training specifically for Apple in the enterprise, and the Information Week CIO Summit. Some of the best CIOs in the business up there teaching you how to drive, fund, measure, and profit from a culture of innovation. Bill Schlau from the San Francisco Giants, Lyndon Tennyson from Union Pacific, Michael Capone from ADP, and more. Are you convinced? Visit www.interop.com to register and use the code WELV for $200 off a conference pass or a free expo pass. Go to www.interop.com. Use the offer code WELV, and we thank Interop for their support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss some of these stories, put them in context for you, is David Spark, founder of Spark Media Solutions, and I'd like to think friend of the show. Welcome back, David.
It's great to be here, and I will also say that I've covered Interop many, many times, and I think it's kind of the last of the big, good IT shows, because most of them just turned into completely cloud shows, which a lot of the content on Interop has now become cloud as well. But seeing that Interop network, that's where I met the Twyat guys myself and interviewed them. That is an awesome, awesome network. And if you go and see that, you always see the cool and the latest there.
Are you going to be going this year?
I'm actually going to be in Vegas for doing some other stuff the week before, and I think I will be covering Interop, but I'm not sure yet.
Well, keep your eyes out. If you're going to Interop, you might be able to meet David Spark.
I'll be running around with a camera gear. So
yeah, you look for him behind a camera. Let's start off talking a little bit about Netflix today. We heard the revenue numbers. They're good, $1.02 billion, 29.2 million U.S. subscribers, more than HBO at this point. If you count the free trial people, it puts them up above 30 million. That makes them more than HBO. They like they said, very little free trial gaming. A lot of people are like, people sign up for the free 30 days, watch House of Cards, and then cancel. They didn't. Even if they meant to, they didn't. They're letting their deal with Viacom expire. That was one thing that Reed Hastings explicitly said in the earnings call. You might think, well, that's a weird thing to be saying in an earnings call, but he wants to negotiate for specific shows, not just take the whole breadth, because it's kind of an open secret that the guys in the industry have been kind of shoving the stuff they couldn't sell to anybody else at Netflix for a long time, and Netflix has been happy to take it because they needed as much content as possible. Sounds like Hastings is like, you know what, we're getting to the point we could be a little more selective. We'll still pay you lots of money. We're making as much money as we can spend, but we just want to be a little more selective about what we put on Netflix. They want to start distinguishing themselves from Amazon and Hulu. Also, they mentioned profiles again. We heard about this at CES. In the coming months, we should get profiles that allow you to have your own tracking of viewing habits. That's for people who share accounts, and also that $12 a month for-device account as well. A lot of people a year ago were critical. They said Netflix is done. They'd screwed things up with their Quickster gambit, and with the price increase, and they'd ruined their credibility. Looks like that has not been true. David, where were you on this a year ago, if you remember?
The whole
Are you one of the
Quickster
people who has to
gambit?
eat your words?
I was a former Netflix subscriber. I may become one again. But you know what? Everyone has very short memories in technology. You know, I don't know how many people even, I'm sure they remember the story. Do they care about it now? I don't know. There's always going to be growing pains. They were moving and still moving from the DVD-only model to the streaming model, and they're just trying to move as many people over there as possible. So it's cheaper for them to distribute that way, and also just DVDs in general. The sales and people's interest in using them has gone completely. So I think whenever you're doing major structural changes to your business model, you're going to have some growing pains, and that's exactly what they had. But the major fear was how they were going to be fighting with the cable providers, and they're playing into what people want, which is, I don't want to pay for all the garbage that the cable providers are selling me. I just want to pay for the specific shows, and that's how, channels like HBO do well, which they sell a single show. Like, everyone wants Sopranos, so they start subscribing to HBO. So they're following the same exact model.
And Hastings said they're going to keep doing that more and more. I don't know if he used the words double down, but I've seen that in a bunch of headlines, that they're committed to more and more original shows. Could this be a mistake to start cutting down the back catalog of things and being more specific and relying more on original shows?
Well, I think Netflix right now wants to do quality over quantity. The thing is, Netflix had this huge catalog, and a lot of people say, similar to cable, they have all this stuff and nothing I want to watch. And if Netflix is going to survive, they want to make sure they have the top tier quality content that you want to watch, because viewing hours and engagement is more important than saying, yeah, we have 80 billion hours of video, but you guys are only watching 1 billion of it. If they're going to have all of these deals in place and they're paying these content companies tons of money, they might as well get stuff that gets eyeballs there. And that means more engagement for their users, which means they have better recommendations, which means they can have more licenses in the future. So quality, I think, probably makes a lot more sense, especially since there are competitors like Hulu and Amazon, and they can try to argue about quantity. Quality is really key.
But they're also negating the whole phenomenon of windowing, which the whole entertainment industry obsesses over. Like, we release the film at this time in the theaters, and then we release it to DVD at this time, and then on demand, you create different time windows. Well, by releasing this House of Cards, all, I think, 13 episodes of it at once, it completely negated that phenomenon of windowing, and they just said, look, if people want to consume it all at once, great. If they want to consume it once a week, great. If not, regardless, we just want them to come here. And also, I think when people bite, the cost to exit either is too high or just not worth it, because, the incremental cost per month is, it's not much. So the whole thing is about signing up. He said, I don't know, was it over like 1 million subscribers and only 8,000 jumped out after the first 30 days?
Yeah, 1 million people did the 30-day trial. And I'm still unclear if it was 8,000 people watched House of Cards and then canceled, or if it was just 8,000 people canceled. But either way, it's a small number.
No, I get the sense that 8,000 just canceled. That's what I saw after the
Sarah,
30 days.
You're a cord cutter. What do you think Netflix has done right that has just attracted people and retained people?
Well, Netflix, I heard a year ago, a lot of the complaints I was hearing, especially for people like my mom, who's like, Netflix is a great idea, but their streaming catalog is garbage. There's nothing on, everything's new, or it's like for kids, or everything's old or for kids or whatever. Something like House of Cards. I was a huge fan of it. It's very well produced. Yeah, you get it in a big 13 episode kind of dump. You can watch it all weekend if you want to. There's no pesky schedule to contend with. People loved it. Not only was it good, but it was sort of like, here's this great quality programming. You watch it however you want to watch it. And I think that has shown, especially with Hemlock Grove being viewed by more people than House of Cards was initially, is that it's a model that works. It's a model that's working for Netflix. More than ever, we have Netflix and HBO being compared to each other because of quality programming. So that's what I think Netflix has done right. And yeah, if you've got a lot of people sign up for a free trial, they're going to stay for the good programming. I mean, that's what people are paying
That's a good point to make. It is a good branding move on Netflix's part to start comparing themselves as much to HBO as possible, because nobody thought of Netflix as the quality programming channel, which is what people think of HBO. And if they can start building that brand, that's going to be phenomenal for them.
Also, putting out all the episodes at once, I have to say, has made me watch more Hemlock Grove than I probably would have. I don't think I would have waited a week and bothered with episode 2, but I went ahead and watched episode 2 because I was interested enough in the mystery, and it was right there. So
Well,
let's move along, talking about Apple sending some money out to people for their iPhone 4s. Years later.
So remember Antennagate, everybody? It was a really big deal. Oh, in what, 2011? The checks that were promised to people via a class action lawsuit, which was actually 18 separate lawsuits accusing Apple, if you don't remember this, of misrepresenting and concealing material information in the marketing, advertising, sale, and servicing of its iPhone 4. The settlement was reached February of 2012, so over a year ago. But members of the lawsuit began receiving their $15 check. I swear this headline kind of reads like an Onion article because apparently the unofficial Apple weblog notes that one reader who received their check said it took so long to arrive that they had forgotten what it was for at all. I don't blame them. $15, geez, at that point. I mean, should have just maybe taken the bumper at the time. That was
I know.
I think that actually be a funny meme, like everyone talking about what they're going to do with their $15, Antennagate check.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, though. I mean, this is Apple earnings day. Everybody likes to speculate on whether, Apple's, can keep its spot as a well-respected company that does everything right. You had some iCloud issues. I actually experienced this. I think it was related. On my Apple TV, there was something wrong with iTunes purchases. Something that Apple has confirmed went wrong. iCloud issues. This is something that has plagued Apple off and on for a while, but this is really good timing. This is very good timing for, an article like the one in the Wall Street Journal today with the headline, Apple has an identity crisis, because it's a hardware company that wants to be a software company, and the hardware business has always been pretty strong, but something like this iCloud issue is just sort of pointing to the fact that the software business, and issues like iCloud don't always work that well for Apple. Although, there was actually a really interesting article that Gizmodo put out this morning as well that said, the whole idea that Apple is trying to figure out whether or not it's a hardware or software company, that's just Wall Street speak. What Apple is an ecosystem, and we should stop trying to label it as one or the other, because it's all about hardware, software, and keeping you there. David, what do you think? I mean, is this just sort of like, hey, once a quarter we get all riled up about, what Apple is and isn't?
Well, I remember hearing Bill Maher talk about, Apple has the most sales of any tablet device, most sales of any phone, yet Wall Street seems to be upset with it. So for us that don't really understand what's going on in finance, it seems very confusing. How does someone who's selling the number one product be doing so poorly? I mean, you're right about the ecosystem. There are a few things that hook us in. Music is one of them. And our contacts and email are another of them. They haven't been so successful on that aspect, but they've got us hooked into music. So if they can find the one thing that where the cost to exit is so extraordinarily expensive, then, well, actually, what am I saying? Contacts. So, people have their contacts on their phone, but they use a different system usually. They don't use necessarily Apple's contact system. So you're right. I mean, it's about creating an ecosystem. The more they do that, the more they hook people in. But I think they've just done that with their really popular products. What do you think?
Ayaz, did you get your $15 back yet?
I didn't even have an iPhone 4, so I didn't get $15. But to David's point, I think that the lock-in that they're doing is just flat out just their applications. When you have an iOS device, the barrier to leaving is buying those applications over again on a new ecosystem, or just finding them on another one, assuming that they're there. For the most part, Android and iOS have parity when it comes to the application selection. But when you start buying these paid apps or these paid games or these in-app purchases, and you start doing these things, you start going, I'm not going to move to another device. And that's the lock-in they're doing, not just on music
another
and
good
video.
point. Yeah, that's a good hook.
That locked-down iOS device keeps you there, and you're like, I don't know if I want to restart everything. And so that's the big pull I'm thinking, and this idea that the financial aspect of, they're number one. The fear is always, well, they can't possibly be number one next quarter. They can't possibly be number one next quarter. It's a strange thing to be fearful of success or past success.
From the past, let's talk about the future, which is Google Glass. When are schmucks like me going to be able to get a hold of Google Glass?
Schmucks like you, Tom. I'm glad we're talking about schmucks like you, because Eric Schmidt said next year you can get it unless you have the Google Glass Explorer program, which obviously is going out right now. They claimed back in February that you would get it by the end of this year. They were aiming for that. But Eric Schmidt, talking to BBC Radio 4, also said something interesting about Google Glass, saying, the fact of the matter is that we'll have to develop some new social etiquette. It's obviously not appropriate to wear these glasses in situations where recording is not correct. Now, there also was another news story that popped up. A Reddit user dug into the My Glass app and found that Glass will support a couple of gestures, including eye gestures. That's your actual eyeballs and your eyelids. When you wink, you could take a photo. Additionally, you'll be able to do a 2-finger zoom for web browsers. There's a companion screencast option. David, what's your thought on this winking to take a photo concept? How many fights are people going to get into and they're just like,
Well, first of all, you can actually see the Google Glass, but it is, small. But I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, if you take a photo with your phone, it forces the camera sound. Can you take a silent photo with your phone? I don't know if you can. And I don't know. This would be different from device manufacturer to device.
Certain apps you can turn off the shutter.
Certain.
Yeah.
Well,
In Japan, they don't allow that. I think.
So you would actually have to hear it. But there is an endless host of privacy issues. The big one being that I can be scanning a room, facial recognition. I can be looking at your Facebook profile, Twitter profile, everything about you. And so I can literally walk up and have all this secret information about you immediately, or what you think is secret because you've been posting it publicly online. It's going to be a weird dynamic of social interaction. But you know what? We've come to be accustomed to that. You remember the first times, people would pick up the phone and say, "Oh, hello, Tom. Hello, Sarah." You're like, "Hey, how do you know it's me?" It's like, well, I've got this, caller ID thing. So people are going to become accustomed to this sense that someone's going to walk up to you, a complete stranger, and immediately know everything about you.
Sarah, what do you think?
It gets. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, what do you think about the social etiquette aspect? Can Google teach people to not wink at strangers?
Well, yeah, I mean, winking means something very different to me right now. So I'm going to be really disappointed when all the winks that I get are just people taking unflattering photos of me in, the gym locker room. But there's something sort of weird about this whole thing is So let's use that locker room example for the first time. At least at my gym, you've got these posted things saying, don't use your phone in here because it's just sort of like a privacy problem because people are worried about stuff. But it's like, well, if you're not taking a photo of somebody, you're not actually doing anything wrong. So then you get into this weird gray area where it's like, well, if I'm not taking a photo, you can kind of tell if I'm doing that or not, hopefully. Well, when you're wearing the glasses, who's to know? Who's to know what's really going on most of the time, what you might be looking at, because nobody else is privy to that information. They can't really look over your shoulder. And you get into sort of like, will people be forced to take off glasses just because of the fear of what might be happening? That socially, I'm trying to...
That very well may happen. And remember, when I was thinking about when the Segway came out, everyone was like, oh, that's amazing. And then wasn't it London who just said, no Segways, period. Can't have a Segway on a sidewalk out here. And that kind of just, you create this cool new technology and all of a sudden can't use it. So there may be businesses, that say like, no smoking indoors, no Google Glass indoors. It could happen. You never know.
Tom, are you having an issue with this potential delay? The fact that Google said this already, it's going to come out this year. Well, next year.
Yeah, that's Google. They say things. They say things and they don't mean them. This is a very futuristic product. So the fact that it's not coming until 2014 to the general populace doesn't shock me in any way. And also, I think all of these concerns about privacy, we've heard them all before. Remember, cameras on phones was a big deal. BlackBerry made a mint selling cameras that were the same model as the ones with cameras without cameras. Phones that didn't have cameras because industry was so worried about people with cameras walking around. We've gotten over that. We learned to deal with it. It's all about cultural literacy, in my opinion.
I think we're going to see enough people in the next coming months. Maybe this idea of seeing the Explorer program go on, and we're going to see a select bunch of people have these things. And they're going to say, hey, what are those? What do they do? And it's going to provide a bit of education because those things do stand out. I don't care how oblivious you are. If somebody's wearing Google Glass and you're talking to them, you're going to ask, why do you have a little piece of looks like a camera attached to your face?
At first, till everybody's got them, and then we all get used to it. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. Thank our other sponsor for today's show. Very happy to have Citrix sponsoring us, makers of ShareFile, sharefile.com. Remember, it's not only what you do at work, it's also how you do it that makes the difference. And our flow of information is never stopping. It's ongoing. And you need it to be collaborative. You need it to be secure. You need it to be efficient. Whether you're working at the office or whether you're on the go, ShareFile helps you do all of that easily and securely. ShareFile by Citrix seamlessly integrates into your daily routine, no matter where you are from any mobile device. With ShareFile, files of almost any size are sent as secure links. Notifications are sent to you when they're opened to track the progress. I find that very handy. And files can be password protected for ultimate control. So only the people you want to open them can open them. Plus, you can set up shared folders if you want lots of people to open them. Easy collaboration with clients and coworkers. It's flexible. ShareFile will change the way you work. To help you get started, we have a special 30-day free trial offer, no obligation. And you don't have to take my word for it. I use it all the time, but you'll see the difference right away when you try it out. To get our special offer, go to sharefile.com today, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter TNT. That's sharefile.com and type in TNT. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Got another study about texting and driving. This one's interesting. The Texas Transportation Institute at Texas A&M put 43 participants along a test track and then compared how they drove while trying to do traditional text messaging, typing into the phone, while doing voice to text, using something like Siri or voice recognition from Google to speak the text, and then just driving and not doing any texting at all. Speech to text generally took longer to send a message than just typing it in because people were having to error correct more. Eye contact with the road suffered in both cases. You might think, oh, you looked at the road more when you were doing speech, but no. Eye contact suffered in both cases. And according to a spokesperson, you're still using your mind to try to think of what you're trying to say. And that, by proxy, causes some driving impairment that decreases your response time. Drivers apparently felt safer when they were using voice-based entry, but they weren't. They were looking away from the road, and they were driving just as dangerously as if they had been typing with their fingers. This reminds me of a 2008 study from the University of Utah that found that speaking on a phone call hands-free was more dangerous than speaking to passengers who were in the car with you. So Is the solution to just ban communications over mobile devices if you're driving a human-driven car? David, what do we do with this information?
Oh, well, that's a good point. You brought a human-driven car. We all need robotic cars now. That's the solution to this problem. It's true. I mean, I was just thinking about that one point you made, and it's like when my wife is in the car and I'm talking with her, she's another set of eyes and ears, and she's the one who's often screaming, watch out! And when I'm someone, is talking to someone on the phone, they can't scream for me to watch out. So maybe the solution is that all discussions on the phone include a camera looking out of the car that someone needs to watch as they're talking to me, so they can be another set of eyes and ears.
Is that the solution, Ayaz?
I was thinking about this question seriously this morning of, should there be a ban? Should there be a law against this? And I don't know if there should be or shouldn't be. I'm thinking this is really an opportunity, though, for car manufacturers to have things like heads-up displays.
Yeah.
The thing is, I was thinking, what if we had this little pop-up window? Is that going to be distracting all the time? And we do have those. When we're driving down the road, there's this giant thing called a street sign, which shows up on the right side most of the time. And I'm like, oh, that's San Francisco International Airport. That's a quarter mile. To have a pop-up that showed up with a text message or something that was short, maybe that would be something that we could get used to, even navigation that way. There's already reckless behavior, reckless driving laws out there. So I'm just kind of curious. You're not going to be able to change the behavior.
No, but here's my question to that. So, and this is more of sort of like a focus situation. If you do a heads-up display on the windshield, your focus doesn't focus, the 100 or few hundred feet in front of you. It focuses the 1 or 2 feet in front of you. So is that going to screw up people's depth perception and also being able to drive at the same time?
I get like an old man in this stuff. I believe when you're driving a several-ton machine that can kill people, that you should focus on operating that and limit your distractions, and that you shouldn't be talking on the phone and you shouldn't be texting in any way. That doesn't mean I believe the laws necessarily need to be changed. I just think as personal responsibility, you should focus on operating your car safely. The most important thing for you when you're driving from one place to another is to operate that machine safely. Sarah, am I overdoing it though? Am I just an old man?
Well, that's a loaded question. But no, you're absolutely right. Of course. I think what we have to be is realistic, right? People are texting each other. You got a lot of messages coming at you. So is there a way to make it safer than it is right now when somebody's behind the wheel of a car? I've got, this actually happened to me over the weekend because I had somebody who texted me. I was in my car going over the Golden Gate Bridge. So, it's definitely a place you got to pay a lot of attention. I had Siri read me the text message, but I still have to hold down my home button and engage Siri, and I got the Bluetooth hooked up to my car speakers, and the whole thing is clunky at best. It's safer than looking down, but not much, and I thought, I can't actually do this right now. I don't have the mental capacity to do this all. I'm gonna have to wait till I'm across the bridge and I can pull over. So that's not a solution. It's like, we're getting better, but if there are studies that show that people are as distracted as if they weren't looking at the road at all, not good enough.
All right, let's lighten things up a little bit and talk about Aereo expanding their empire, Ayaz.
Yeah, Aereo announced its first expansion beyond New York City. It's coming to Boston starting May 15th. Now, if you don't know about Aereo, I don't know how it's possible. You're going to get a cloud DVR and access to the major broadcast networks and a bunch of other channels. Aereo is first coming to those who pre-registered. General availability is 2 weeks later, starting on May 30th. And Aereo is obviously being sued by every network and their mother, or parent company, actually. The networks say Aereo is infringing on its copyrights, and Aereo says, no, we're not. Aereo also plans to expand to other cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Salt Lake City. David, do you think this expansion is going to just really annoy the networks even further to the point where they just continue to sue Aereo, or they're going to say, listen, Aereo must have some kind of business plan?
Well, there's no doubt about it. The cable networks and the over-the-air, they all make their money on licensing fees, rebroadcast licensing. And I know that I see it all the time when I'm watching Major League Baseball. They tell me that, the unlicensed, reproduction or reduplication of this is against the Major League Baseball. I don't see it on other programming. Shouldn't that apply to everything? I believe they have rights here, but if it is going out over the air, and people are capturing it with free devices like televisions, I think they might have a right to do it. But again, so far there have been a couple of lawsuits that have gone Aereo's way. So far they're winning the battle, but they're getting hammered left and right.
Tom, what do you think about this expansion to another major city? They were in New York, now Boston. They're not going for these little small towns to check out how it's going to be. They're just going full on.
Yeah, it's almost as if they said they were going to do this a couple weeks ago, and then the preliminary injunction didn't go against them, and they started doing it. It's exciting.
I mean, they're not afraid to annoy the networks. That's how a lot of companies, I think,
I don't think they're doing it to annoy the networks. I think they're doing it because that's their business plan, and they looked at the court case, said, hey, we didn't get the preliminary injunction. Let's continue with the business plan.
Sarah, does this make you excited for if this continues and Aereo keeps winning its lawsuits? Are you excited about television over the internet?
Absolutely. I mean, this is basically giving me a DVR with the signal that I'm capturing for free. I don't have that capacity right now. That's awesome. I would love for it to come to San Francisco, you know, my large metropolitan area. I think, yeah, Aereo's doing exactly what it should be doing while it's still allowed to expand. And I'm not saying that eventually it's going to get shut down. Obviously, the networks are trying to do so. But for now, this is what you do. You get, you know, the New York market talking about Aereo. If it works well, you expand as much as possible. You make it a viable option for people. They start paying you. You got a business.
Well,
so,
here's an interesting point that one user said in the chat room, with saying that the over-the-air broadcast doesn't, you know, using the feed for your own personal use, you know, that's perfectly okay. So would Aereo be okay? And again, lawyers speak up in this situation. Would Aereo be okay if it just sold the units flat fee, no subscription, so they weren't paying an ongoing, they were just selling hardware, and that the person chooses to do what they want with the device is up to them? Similar to like when you go to a head shop and they tell you, you know, you're only supposed to use it for tobacco use, but what you use it for, that's up to you.
It's kind of Slingboxy, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's an end product that would be legal or not legal. The thing about Aereo and their business model, obviously the future is subscription services. So I wonder if there is a difference when it comes to that ongoing fee that Aereo is not paying to the networks. I just think Aereo found this amazing loophole. It seems like, actually it's not a loophole, it's a proper use of this technology. We have over-the-air transmissions of video, and they're capturing one antenna for one user in a limited market. I think they did a brilliant strategy, and I'm excited because this shouldn't be some kind of bizarre issue if I'm trying to use an Ethernet cable instead of a coaxial cable if I want to watch TV, if I'm using an antenna. I just hope this proves to people that there are some really crazy laws out there, but this one is saying, yeah, you can do this because that's the way the system works. It's built for this.
They're coming to, by the way, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Miami, Austin. Austin gets everything. Houston, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Detroit, Denver, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Cleveland, Kansas City, Raleigh, Salt Lake, Birmingham, Providence, and Madison. Where the freak is California? You know why? They don't want to get a suit filed against them in California District Court because that's where Alki David lost. Alki David was doing a similar thing. Maybe that's why. They don't want to do it in the backyard of the broadcasters. Boo. Let's talk about pizza, Sarah.
Oh my gosh, can we go back to that? Xbox, Pizza Hut, match made in heaven. I am with Ayaz on this one. I don't even have an Xbox, but the whole thing is Pizza Hut and Xbox have sort of teamed up. We now have a Pizza Hut app. It's live today. And what it does is allows you to browse the Pizza Hut chain's entire menu, you know, pizzas and breadsticks and all that stuff, accessible to users who can then build their own customized pizzas and place orders via Kinect motion controls or voice commands or the controller, you know, if you want to be old school about it. You can link your Xbox and PizzaHut.com accounts. You can save your order. So if you're like, I just made the best pizza ever and I just want a one-click pizza order next time, you can, of course, save your purchases. You can also share your order information on Facebook, which that part is a little bit silly, but hey, this whole thing is a little bit silly. But Xbox's Larry Herb says, Pizza Hut has been serving customers digitally for a long time, so this is not some sort of like new thing. They launched the ability to order online food back in 1994. Is that really true? That's a long time ago. And you know that basically this is the market. Pizza or people who are playing a lot of Xbox games or for whatever reason using their Xbox for other things happen to like pizza. Why not give them an app that's easy? And obviously, if you're within an area where Pizza Hut could deliver, you know, or for pickup, you're good to go. I think this is so genius, and they're going to make a killing on pizzas. And I'm trying to figure out, like, is there another company that's done something like this? Because it's so obvious. I can't think of one. I can think of services that will go and, you know, pick up orders for you, but not a big national chain like Pizza Hut. What do you think, David? What's that?
Papa John's. I ordered pizza from Papa John's on the web and when I lived in Austin. See, they get everything.
No, but in 1994?
1998, I think, yeah.
Well, that's a good point you mentioned about 1994, is that pizza delivery has always been on the forefront of some kind of digital commerce. Every time we hear about the first of any digital commerce, it's always pizza delivery. I don't know why we need that first before anything else, and before medication, I noticed. But also, porn is always on the forefront of new media technologies. And then also the whole concept of the pizza delivery guy coming to your house is on the forefront of hackneyed porn premises. So it's such a perfect crossword puzzle connection of different concepts here. I love it. It's great.
Why didn't Cosmo succeed, though? They bring you pizza and a DVD.
Didn't have a.
There are a lot of people saying, well, but there are all sorts of other pizza chains and food chains that, you know, allow you to order online. I mean, Xbox specifically, I think, is what's really interesting here. A lot of people are on their Xbox the whole time. Yes, maybe you could have an app on your phone or you know, you could reach for your computer, but it's sort of like if you're already there and you got the Connect and the whole thing, it makes it that much easier to say, oh yeah, let's quickly order a pizza. I got them on speed dial.
I mean, I'm sorry, you're sitting there playing the game and you literally can't reach for the phone. You can't reach for the computer, which are two.
No one said can't, David. We said want. Do we want to have to reach for the phone, or is it nicer to be able to just do the pizza gesture?
I'm sorry. You're going to have to get up from the couch to answer the door when the pizza comes.
I think we're missing an obvious thing. This lets you order from anything on Pizza Hut. So you've been eating wings all night, and you want to touch a controller, a phone, or your smartphone. No way. You're using the Connect to use voice control and hand gestures in the air because you're not getting that stuff on your screen. That's, I think, genius because you're going to order it once, you're going to order it again, and this ridiculous idea of sharing to Facebook what you're eating, yeah, that's not so crazy. It just seems like now people will realize, sent from my Xbox. You can order pizza on my Xbox, and then they'll continue to do this.
Well, people do photograph their food, so you know what you need is you need a camera and the controller, or actually take the camera from the Connect, photograph your pizza, and send it out.
Ooh, TV Z-Gun has a legit question. Do you need Xbox Live Gold to order the pizza, or can you order with a silver account?
Or could you get upgraded to gold if you get enough pizza ordering points?
Yeah. And by the way, if you're interested and you're an Xbox user, if you download and order through the Pizza Hut app before May 6th, you get 15% off your first purchase.
Nice.
That's good value.
15% off and a freshman 15.
Just don't order salad because you don't make friends with salad.
No.
Let's move on to the randomizer. You won't be able to order noodles either, but a robot might be making them for you, at least if you live in China. I saw this on Slashdot today. Noodle robots replacing workers in Chinese restaurants. This was invented by a noodle restaurant owner, and the robots are like shaped like fancy little robots with glowing orange eyes, and they do the knife cut noodles, as I was informed in the chat room earlier, is this different kind of noodle. They don't just extrude them. So you sit there and you can watch them slice the noodles off. In fact, in the video on the page, they even show the robot in the restaurant where people can be sitting around eating the noodles and watching the robot at work slicing the noodles. Cost 10,000 yuan. That's about $1,600 US, which is the equivalent of 3 months' wages of a noodle slicer. Robots taking noodle slicing jobs.
This is the post-apocalyptic future we were worried about.
Well, we have robots making cars. Why not make noodles?
Why can't that?
Why do they have to be so aggressive?
Well, why can't that robot come with Xbox and make me pizza?
First, they came for our noodle makers, and we didn't speak out. Next, they ran the world. Freaking robots. Let's see what's on the calendar. What's there, Sarah?
Tomorrow, we've got some earnings. Zynga is reporting their earnings. And also, the Samsung Galaxy S4 is launching on T-Mobile. That's tomorrow, the 24th of April.
Excellent. And now, what is incoming?
Incoming message.
A message.
It's a
again.
message from Jonathan Walker, who I'm going to call Johnny Walker. AT&T crew, with the rumors and news of Windows 8.1 and the potential ability to boot into desktop and get the start button and menu back, one thing I haven't heard mentioned is the enterprise. Do you think it's possible that these changes are actually coming from the business side of the fence and not the consumer side? As it stands now, Windows 8 has always felt unprofessional to me. Perhaps companies have refused to upgrade for the same reason. Just a thought. David, what do you think about these rumors? Do you think this is about enterprise? These little features coming back to Windows?
Do we need more features in Windows? I think that's more the question. I mean, what percentage of the features are we actually using? A 0.5%?
You're right. We should go back to one feature, like one window.
One feature. Yes, one feature that works really well.
The browser.
Or
I
the
agree
boot
with-
up time, maybe.
Johnny Walker is a friend of mine. No, I agree with him. That's Jose Cuervo. I think that there's a lot of pressure from the enterprise to boot to desktop for sure. Maybe the start button as well, but definitely that ability to say, look, you do your tiles thing if you have to do your tiles thing, but we're a business. We need people to get to the desktop, launch IE6, and use our horribly outdated internally coded tool, and that's all we need it for. So please allow us to be able to do that. That's the last
That's the
word.
final
on that.
word, exactly.
All right, that is pretty much it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. David Spark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Flashy, well, it's not flash, but it's a very nice-looking brand new website.
Yes,
Spark
check it
Media
out,
Solutions.
sparkmediasolutions.com. Oh, and one more plug. I have my own podcast itself called Hacking Media Production, where I interview people about cool new ways to produce media. So please subscribe, check it out. If you listen to the podcast Good Job Brain on Trivia, I interviewed those guys about how to make super fun trivia, and it's a really good interview.
And that's what's the URL for that one?
Well, you can get it from the business site, sparkmediasolutions.com, or the blog, sparkminute.com. Again, all through the business site.
Excellent. Thank you again, David. Thank you all for watching or listening. Thank you if you participate in the subreddit. That's one less thank you for those who don't participate in the subreddit, but it's easy to change that. Go to technewstoday.reddit.com. You don't have to do anything but maybe click a couple votes. Boom, you're in. Or you can submit stories as well. Lots of people submit stories. We look at that every day to figure out our coverage. You can find us all the time at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. You can even attach an MP3 in our email address. Our phone number, though, if you want to use the old telephone, is 260-TNT-SHOW. Congratulations to Jason Howell, who we believe is very close to becoming a father for the second time. And thanks to Alex Gumpel for filling in for Jason today. We'll see you next time on Tech News Today when our guest will be Lamar Wilson. See you then.